Hello, science heads. Welcome back to Science 2.0. Before we get to today's show, I'd like you to see something. You see that flashing truck there? I have reason to believe that that's the Illuminati there in that truck. Either that, or it's keys from the beginning of E.T. Well, I expose the corruptness of the world as much as any John Lang. Now down to today's topic, which just happens to be fake news, and by gosh, do I not like fake news. Nor does our fine president, Mr. Donald Trump. Mr. Donald Trump does not enjoy fake news either, which I think is very charming of him. He is against media corruption. He is against all the corrupt medias. He is against the New York Times, the Washington Times, the Los Angeles Times, the Denver Times, the San Francisco Times, all the Times. He's against all the Posts, all the Suns, his one news which he believes in, which I also believe in, which I think is thoroughly reliable, is Breitbart. Because my gosh, if there is one real news out there, it is Breitbart, headed by Stephen Bannon. But you've really got to be on the watch for these fake news. Because if you have a small little impressionable mind like I do, and you can be swayed by almost anything, you need to keep a watch out for that liberal propaganda, because you can be swayed over by it. Because fake news is so difficult to spot, and it is scary, and by gosh, misinformation. If there's one thing that I would suggest you do, it is to stay informed and up to date about what's going on. Stay informed, stay real, stay knowing what's going on. That's what I hope this channel does for you, because this channel's nothing but reality. It is totally reliable. It's probably the most reliable source out there. Now let me tell you, you don't got nothing more wrong than fake news. And except Breitbart. Breitbart is 100% reliable. But the New York Times, not reliable at all. And everyone is saying, well, by gosh, fake news is what made Trump the president. And fake news did not make Trump the president. He was elected that by the loving American people. However, you look at who's in power democratically these days? Who's the scapegoat these days? Who's the person we all blame? Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. She was elected by the fake news, and the Democrats don't say, "Oh, we do the fake news also," because you know that liberal news isn't highly researched or reliable or trustworthy. Breitbart is trustworthy, by gosh. They really do their research. Like, for instance, Stephen Bannon. What the guy? He's my Cronkite, I tell ya. And then you've got those awful fake news fellas like John Oliver, or Stephen Colbert, or Trevor Noah, or Jimmy Falcon, or who you know. And all I got to say is phooey, all a bunch of liberal propaganda, and do your research on what's real news and what's fake news, is the point. And I think everyone especially the liberals in particular, they will say this. They will say, well, Trump has so much fake news written about how great a person he is. And that is not true. Trump does not like fake news. He always says, I don't like the fake news. So you gotta know, he doesn't like the fake news. Even if there's a fake news piece that sucks up to him, if it sucks up to him in an inaccurate way and it's fake, he won't do it. It just so happens that all the news pieces that praise him for his glorious actions as our wonderful president are 100% real and accurately sourced and completely neutral. And the other thing is, this is a good way to tell if a news piece is too liberal, if it's not neutral and boring. If a reporter has got an opinion because they're a human being, don't buy it. You only want news that sounds like it was written by a boring robot. You don't want flair, you don't want spice. If the title calls Bill Barr a weasel, stray away from that. It can't be accurate. I mean, news can't use adjectives. Even though Breitbart does it all the time. If news uses adjectives like corrupt or bad or impeach, then stray away from that news. It's not neutral enough. Because what I want isn't conservative propaganda. I just want neutrality. Because as we all know, the only solution to a system where there are two very different sides is a compromise that will make neither side happy. That's it. Be a moderate. Be an independent. Just don't be a leftist. Don't go over to the dark side and become tolerant. Anywho, like I was saying, Trump, what the guy? A fellow walking there. There was a person. I am concerned about the Illuminati because there are people walking by here. Anywho, like I was saying, fake news. The point being of today's Science 2.0 episode is, don't trust the fake news, as it could be bad, and overall, just journalism is the fourth estate, and the purpose of the fourth estate is to keep the public informed and to have the freedom of the press. And if Stephen Bannon wants to keep attacking Antifa, that's his right. He can keep attacking Antifa because he's the fourth estate. That's his right. But if the journalists attack our fine President Trump, then they are doing the public a great disservice, as Mr. Trump is a fine fellow, and he's only been married 3 times. So, he's the guy, he's the top guy. And if Ivanka wasn't his daughter, he'd be marrying her. I accept that as real news. But, as I know, whatnot, and, when it comes to real news, you can just deny it. Okay, so this has been Science 2.0 on fake news. Now I believe it's time for our fun fact. of the day, which always comes in at about 9 minutes, either that or 9 minutes and 30 seconds into this scintillating program of conservative ideas, or as Ben Shapiro put them, the conservative halls of intelligentsia. Today's fun fact is about the film. It ties in with today's topic of fake news. The film Good Night and Good Day to All the Ships at Sea, starring Edward R. Murrow, is a very bad movie because it's about the fellow that didn't like great Congressman Joe McCarthy, and it has a 0% on Rotten Tomatoes, and it's got a lot of Rotten Tomatoes thrown at it, and it's not a good movie, and don't watch it because it's about Edward R. Murrow, who doesn't like Joe McCarthy, and I like Joe McCarthy. He reminds me of Trump. So anywho, this has been Science 2.0. Stay awake, stay informed, and